That's me.
Dog. Oh, yeah, hi.
That's me. I'm Mr. Geyser.
Today we'll be learning about Missionary.
No.
If I'm correct.
No, she's going to tell us about a missionary.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Not
I
missionary.
am Missionary, but I'm going to tell you a story about a missionary. All right, are y'all excited to learn today?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, who remembers who we're learning about? Who remembers the name of who we're learning about? How about you, Mr. Geyser? Do you know who we're learning about?
I just arrived here.
You just arrived, you're right. Well, then I'll tell you. We're learning about Andrew. And Andrew is a little boy growing up in Holland.
Poland?
Oh, that's gone.
Holland.
Poland?
No,
Holland.
not Poland. Holland.
But
Holland. It's a place. It's a place. Now, they have Poland there, but I know you're super excited, Mr. B. It's okay. It's okay. I know you're excited and that you want Poland. I don't have any right now. But I tell you what, Mr. B, if you listen really good, when we're done, if you listen really good, I have a whole bunch of flowers right here next to me, and you can have all the pollen from all of them. But you have to be good, okay?
Okay.
Okay, now pay attention as we hop into our story. Now, we've been learning about Andrew, and last week we left off where World War II had been going, and World War II, yeah.
Yeah, we did nothing wrong, don't worry.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
He's a
hang
German.
on. You're German, aren't you?
Yes, we did
I
nothing wrong.
captured him while I was fishing for meatloaf.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, I did. Let's get on with the
You
story.
were fishing for meatloaf. I have so many questions, but I don't have time
Don't
to
ask,
ask
we
them
don't
in
know.
this lesson. So, but we'll circle back. Don't worry. I'll ask them later. Okay? I'm just not sure how that would go.
Don't worry, we don't know either.
Don't worry. Otto, I know that you're from Germany.
Yes.
And I know that you don't think Germany did anything wrong.
Right. We didn't.
In World War II. That being said, we'll agree to disagree, and just know I still like you, Otto, and I'm so
Thank you.
excited that you're here today.
Thank you.
And anyone from Germany who might be listening today, make sure you put a little thumbs up and let us know that you're from Germany. We're excited to have you here in our lesson today.
Yeah, then as soon as we skipped over.
And also, if you're from Holland, give a double thumbs up so we know you're from Holland, okay? And if
Sergeant Flynn is the leader of men. Sergeant Flynn always shouts attention.
Attention!
Here comes Mr. Geyser. He's older and he's wiser, reading Bible verses every day. Jesus wept, Jesus wept, Jesus wept. Here comes Mr. Geyser. He's older and he's wiser. Read the Bible with him today. Jesus wept, Jesus wept, Jesus wept.
And we're hopping right into our story about Andrew.
Excuse me?
Yes, ask your
I think
question.
it's called an APC, Armored Personnel Carrier.
Armored car.
No, it wasn't that. But it was something similar to that. But it's what they had in Holland. So it's that kind of thing. You're on the right track there, okay? All right. So Andrew was just an adventurer, but unfortunately the very next day was time to ship out. And that was whenever it was time to actually go to war. And unfortunately, playing war and being in war were two totally different things.
Ooh, boy.
He loved the climbing through the dirt, he loved the shooting, he loved all that. But when it came down to shooting actual people, that was something different.
I don't think getting
It
shot
was
at
something that he had literally never even thought about, the reality of the weight that would be on him after having to do the things he would have to do during war. And yes, that unfortunately death is a part of war. And Andrew hadn't thought about that when he was thinking about all his adventures. So before long, as he was doing this, he began to deal with a lot of guilt and shame and sadness and pain involved in all the death and suffering that he saw during that war. And he began to get even more angry at who was he already angry at?
God.
God. And he began to get more angry at God and think, why is the world the way it is? And this is terrible. And Andrew decided he was going to do the one thing that he knew would make everything okay. He was going to get himself killed.
What? Oh.
I know. Now, y'all remember that was his answer earlier, right? When Bass was sick and Bass was going to die, he was like, well, I'll just die with Bass. And whenever he couldn't handle the guilt anymore of everything that he'd had to see and deal with in war, he decided that he was going to try to get himself killed. So he got himself a big yellow hat and he put it on his head. And he and about 5 other guys in his unit, they came up with this phrase called, and they would say, get smart and lose your mind. And the point was is that you were going to go out and act as crazy as you possibly could during the war and try to get yourself shot. And that's exactly what Andrew did. It's sad and it's terrible. Anyone would be willing to do that, but that's where Andrew was, and he was super discouraged. He was super depressed. And whenever he didn't get himself shot, he started drinking. And he drank and he drank and he drank, and things got really bad. Yeah, alcohol is always bad. Alcohol is never the answer. In fact, the Bible says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging. Whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. So if y'all want to be wise, stay away from alcohol.
Don't drink wine.
Don't drink wine. Don't drink alcohol. Stay away from it. It will ruin your life. And that's exactly what it started doing to Andrew. It made things bad. He thought it was bad before. It was even worse now. Well, the one thing that had happened before he left was his mother. As he was leaving, his mother put something in his hand and she said, I want you to have this. And it was her Bible. Y'all might remember me telling y'all that she read her Bible all the time. She gave it to him and she said, here's my Bible, Andrew. Please read it. And he said, I will. Now, he never planned to. Here's the thing. You can do no to your mom, but you can't say no to your mom. That was his mindset. Like, I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to tell her I'm not going to do it. So he had no intention to actually read the Bible, but he took it and it was there with him during this time. Well, one day, he and his group went out and they were in the middle of this big firefight, and they'd been warned ahead of time. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. There's going to be a lot of shooting. It's going to be very dangerous. And Andrew said, today's the day. Today's the day that I'm going to be able to get smart and lose my mind. And one of the reasons that made him really, really want this to happen is he received a letter in the mail about 2 days before this big battle took place. And this letter was from his sister, and it told him that his mother had passed away. And he was very heartbroken. Now keep in mind, I told y'all that his 2 favorite people in the world were who? Bass and his mom, and now they've both passed away, and he was really heartbroken over it. He was really, really sad. And as he went into war that day, he planned on just getting himself killed. That was his plan. And as he was running, he felt something. It didn't really know what it was. It didn't really hurt, but he felt something hit his leg, and then he just lost his balance, and he fell and he hit the ground, and he was like, what happened? And then he realized he had been shot in the leg. And as he lay there and everyone was running around him and there was guns going off everywhere, and he lay there and he thought, how did I fail again? How did I fail again? I can't even get myself killed properly. I get shot in the leg. I can't even get killed properly. And the medics came and they put him onto a stretcher and they tried to carry him away, and he wouldn't let him carry him away without his big yellow hat, because he knew the yellow hat would draw fire. And he was hoping still that someone would shoot him, and he didn't get shot, and they got him and they took him to the hospital, and they put him in the hospital and they began to work on him, and he heard the doctors talking. They were talking about how bad this bullet wound was and how They're like, well, maybe we should just cut his leg off. Maybe that's our best option. And he thought, I'm going to be crippled for life. This is the worst. I mean, it couldn't get any worse. He's an adventurer. He loves excitement. He loves, all these things. And unfortunately, he was about to lose his leg, he was sure. Now, thankfully, he had a good doctor who said, no, you know what, I think I can get the bullet out. I think it'll be okay. They got the bullet out, and they wrapped him up in a cast and all that, and he couldn't hardly move. And as he laid there that day, he was really, really sad. He was really, really depressed. He just turned 21 years old. But he realized that his favorite brother in the world was gone. His mother was gone. And the worst of it is that he realized there was no adventure in the whole world. He'd always wanted an adventure, and all he'd gotten was sadness and pain and death. And he was very, very sad. And he's like, it's over. There's no point to my life anymore. It's over. But God had a plan. So as Andrew was laying there, and Andrew was slowly healing from this bullet wound, one of his friends came by to visit him and brought to him his mother's Bible and said, hey, guess what I found in your duffel bag? I found this and I thought you might want it. And he took it and he laid it on the nightstand. And truly, just by accident, one night, he rolled over and his hand hit the nightstand, and he felt that Bible, and he began to wonder, oh, there we go, there's a Bible. That's exactly what I needed. I don't like using something else as an example of a Bible. But he rolled over, and his hand landed on the Bible, and he's like, what's that? So he picked it up, and he began to look at it, and he ended up opening the Bible, and he ended up reading in it. Well, God actually used one of the people who he'd been writing to. Y'all remember I mentioned he wrote to a bunch of the people back in Holland. And one of those people began to talk to him and encourage him to serve the Lord and learn about the Lord. And he began to read the Bible and get very excited about the Bible. But then one day, it finally came the day for the cast to get removed. And they removed the cast, and his leg was all twisted, and it looked horrible. And he tried to stand on it, and he couldn't stand, and it was so painful. And once again, Andrew got mad at God. And he does this a lot, it seems. But God still had a plan for Andrew, though he didn't understand it. And he got mad at God, and at first he was like, this isn't fair, nothing about this is right. And whenever because his wound was so bad, obviously he couldn't stay in the military any longer. So they shipped him back home, they sent him back home, and they put him in a hospital for rehabilitation. That was a military hospital for rehabilitation there, to try to help his leg heal and stuff. And while he was there, he had to do this terrible thing of working with clay. If you've ever worked with clay, it can be really messy, and it's not an easy thing to do, and he hated it. I mean, it takes patience, and one thing, Andrew had a lot of confidence, not a lot of patience, so that really wasn't his thing. And he wasn't good at it, and he hated it, and he was really struggling. He was really discouraged. And he was smoking all the time, and he was drinking all the time, and he kind of quit reading the Bible anymore because he was mad that his leg wasn't better. And one day, while sitting there in the hospital, a young woman came in and invited everyone to come to a tent meeting that night, a church tent meeting. And all the guys were like, they were like, oh yeah, let's go. And so Andrew was like, okay, whatever, let's go. Well, he and one of his buddies, who was always causing trouble, they actually got drunk right before going to the church meeting. And you're like, that doesn't sound like a good idea, does it?
It's not.
It's not. For one, it wouldn't please the Lord, and for two, you're not going to get much out of a message if you're drunk, right?
Right.
But most of all, it's not going to please the Lord that you're drinking at all. But he went to that church meeting even though he was drunk, and he and his buddy, the whole church service, they were passing this bottle back and forth. They were laughing, they were joking, they were poking each other, they were messing around the entire time. But guess what? At the end of that church service, they sang a song, and that song played over and over in Andrew's head all night long. And the next morning, Andrew thought, maybe there's something to this. And he slowly began to read the Bible again. And slowly he began to go to church again. And slowly he began to try to get closer to the Lord. As his leg healed up enough that he was released from the hospital, he bought himself a bike. And he used that bike because he couldn't hardly walk. He used that bike to pedal, and he'd pedal to all the towns around. and began to go to different church services. And one of those churches that he attended was a little Baptist church, and they held meetings on Tuesday nights. So every Tuesday night, he attended that church, and he began to listen and learn more and more about God. And so next week, we're going to talk about how that affects his life for the rest of his life. Bye. Yeah. Oh, we can't forget, Mr. B, you were so good. Good job. Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching Bible Studies with
Finally.
Mr.
Bye-bye.
Geyser.